Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Darkest Dungeon. I'm going to launch it from the beginning because it has a intro video that I wanted to pop in. This is a 2016 roguelike.
Has come to our family.
I'll talk after this.
You remember our venerable house? Opulent and imperial.
Kind of a slow intro here. You should be talking a little bit faster.
I lived all my years in that ancient, rumor-shadowed manor.
Although I guess this game is kind of slow.
Luxury. And yet I began to tire of conventional extravagance. Singular, unsettling tales suggested the mansion itself was a gateway to some fabulous and unnameable power. With relic and ritual, I bent every effort towards the excavation and recovery
there we see
of
Cthulhu.
buried secrets, exhausting what remained of our family fortune on swarthy workmen and sturdy shovels. At last, in the salt-soaked crags beneath the lowest foundations, we unearthed that damnable portal of antediluvian evil.
Antediluvian, that's a big word. I'd have to look that up to know what it meant.
Our every step unsettled the ancient earth. But we were in a realm of death and madness. In the end, I alone fled laughing and wailing through those blackened arcades of antiquity. Until consciousness failed me. You remember our venerable house, opulent and imperial. It is a festering abomination. I beg you, return home, claim your birthright, and deliver our family from the ravenous, clutching shadows of the darkest dungeon.
So did he just shoot himself and then say of the darkest dungeon? Anyways, Darkest Dungeon is about making the most of a bad situation. Quests will fail and must be abandoned. Heroes will die. When they die, they stay dead. Progress autosaves constantly, so actions are permanent. The game expects a lot out of you. How far you push for your adventure. How much are you willing to risk in your quest to restore the hamlet? What will you sacrifice to save the life? Didn't read fast enough to get the rest of that. Let's see. So, this is Darkest Dungeon is a 2016 roguelike. I believe you describe it as a deck builder card game, compared to like a trading card game where you could buy or sell cards. There's none of that. It may not even really be a deck builder so much as in the fact that you may not be adding cards permanently as far as your actions. It spawned a lot of competitors and clones after it came out, but inherently it also added a ridiculous amount of extra DLC, which this is a game that only justifies having DLC because it's, in my mind, very hard to ever have DLC. Let's see. Let's see what this does. Here's the options. Let's go with the audio. Turn on the subtitles. On the bottom. We'll start with the bottom. Mute while in the background. It's probably a smart move. And then let's just start by getting the audio a little bit down to 50%, and we'll see where we want on that. Probably want to turn the music down more than anything. let's go to about 40 there and see how that all works. Alright. And then graphics wise, full screen, combat pivot, blur effect, gamma, not a lot to change there. Other options, tutorials are on, extra bark time in seconds, bark dismiss, party order sort, debug output, language English, enabled data collection and multiplayer. And see, I really don't want to play a game like this in multiplayer at all. But yeah, beyond just being busy playing other games or just being slow about playing other games, I have put off playing Darkest Dungeon specifically because they have consistently added more content in DLC form that drastically changes the game. So the experience I'm going to have, even I imagine in the first hour of gameplay, is going to be significantly different now in 2022 than it would have been in 2016. I think Darkest Dungeon may have been one of those early access games too that had a lot of tweaks happen to balance things out. There is a lot of praise for this game, so I imagine there's no reason for me to be afraid I won't like it, but there is a reason to be a little afraid that there might not be an actual end game that is reasonable to achieve. This could be very much like one of the first games I ever covered on my channel, Faster Than Light FTL, where just beating it all the way through, beating the dungeon once, may be as much as I can do and may take 60 to 100 hours. Okay. So we have the Butcher's Circus as a campaign, which is its own separate thing. So we probably shouldn't play this first. We should probably just exit out. But also it said it auto-saved everything.
A traveling bacchanal. A debauched contest of survival. The Butcher's Circus is all these things. And more.
Okay. So the Butcher's Circus seems to be a multiplayer add-on. You can go through the circus to fight multiplayer battles. It is completely independent from the estate. Your heroes and trinkets in the circus are separate and will not impact your single player progress you make in the circus, including your rank, banner design, and any rewards you unlock will carry over to other campaigns as long as you're logged into the same Steam account. Although I don't know what other campaigns they're talking about. Does that include the estate as in the campaign? So at a certain level, there might be an argument to playing the Butcher's Circus first, but that's questionable. It says Season 3 has ended. Participating players have unlocked rewards and ranks have been reset for the next season. And again, if this is 2022 and only 3 seasons have happened, I wonder if a Season 4 just will never come. Let's see what each of these buttons do. There's ranking leagues. There's a lot of trinkets here that I imagine some of these trinkets or all of these trinkets were given via DLC. So some of this DLC may have straight up just given you pay to win type content, although it may also just be a case that these are the default trinkets that are unlocked no matter what. There's no other option here. Apparently you can prestige. And then there's a glossary here just to explain some of the key phrases, which, much like a card game, there will be key phrases and descriptions. It is quite the glossary of words. Pretty much explaining everything from down the weapon. Prize box, ranking board, the ring, dueling grounds, issue challenges, banner design. So a lot of this is kind of redundant stuff. Enter the ring here is the same, I assume, as enter the ring here.
Violence and vanity. Debased lovers locked in an eternal embrace.
See, this game constantly has this voice actor bringing a lot of life to a game like this, where the game could be very boring otherwise. Yeah, and it almost seems like there's straight up some kind of loot boxes that you're going to earn by playing more multiplayer stuff. Noticeably, there's whole sub-menus here as far as different decorations you can have. Yeah. So we don't want to engage with that yet. Probably don't want to engage with that at all. Okay. You may enable multiple DLCs at once for any estate. Let's see. The Butcher Circus adds a new circus area and multiplayer battles. The Musketeer Hero class, Crimson Court, includes the Courtyard region and all associated quests, monsters, houses, treasures, and storylines. The District System upgrades your hamlet by building new structures in addition to the original buildings. So a lot of this definitely feels like it was sold as DLC when it really could have just been a version 2.0, version 3.0 of the game. And yeah, I just don't see a reason where it would be legitimate for a player to play the game without all this content enabled. Which is funny because, like, compared to The Binding of Isaac Repentance, which is the remake and like third expansion DLC of The Binding of Isaac original game, like the most recent Binding of Isaac DLC changes everything and adds just a ton of content, so much so that you really aren't going to have a great experience trying to learn all of it if you've never played any of The Binding of Isaac before. And in that case, I would say playing I think it's Rebirth is the remake first part of The Binding of Isaac, and then it's Afterbirth, I believe, is what the remake is called. I don't even remember. The names are all too similar and crazy. Yeah. So yeah, there would be an argument to de-checking all of this and just playing the game the normal way, but it would just add more time, and I don't think most players would do that. Now, inherently, when you do buy Darkest Dungeon, you only get the base game. So I've actually invested quite a lot of money in buying the base game and all this DLC before I've even played it. Is this your first estate? The Crimson Court increases the complexity and pressure of the campaign. Is recommended for experienced players. Okay, so let's turn off the Crimson Court then, if the game is going to push me in that direction. Alright. And then we come down to a difficulty setting on top of everything else. And certainly I don't want to spend a lot of time in this game, so I play most games on normal or easy. In this case, since it's a game that's already promising to be very difficult, playing it on easy makes a lot of sense. Easy in this case is Radiant. Radiant campaigns, while still challenging, are adjusted to be faster and more forgiving than normal, suggested for your first Darkest Dungeon experience. Now, it will be interesting, certainly, if it turns out that I win on the first try playing on Radiant, and then I am quickly bumped up to playing the darkest setting, which would be normal difficulty. There's no time limit to win. The campaign will be longer and more challenging than Radiant modes, whereas Stygian campaigns are you must beat the whole thing under a certain time and a death limit, which that seems like I almost certainly would never play as the hard mode, Stygian mode. And Darkest seems like a good name. So, unless they use that as like your main character's name.
You will arrive along the old road. It winds with a troubling serpent-like suggestion through the corrupted countryside, leading only, I fear, to ever more tenebrous places. There is a sickness in the ancient pitted cobbles of the old road, and on its writhing path you will face viciousness, violence, and perhaps other damnably transcendent terrors. So steel yourself, and remember there can be no bravery without madness. The old road will take you to hell, but in that gaping abyss, we will find our redemption.
And I guess it's the idea that you have to defeat the evil there. You can't just burn down the house or blow it up and cave in the dungeon. And it does seem like the evil is spreading. So this old road is obviously a tutorial section. And boy, is that taking forever to load, but I guess it's not loading. It's waiting for me to do something. And I'm playing with this right now with a mouse, but I may switch over to a controller because it may not really be necessary to use a mouse. Typically in card games, I think I need a mouse, but that's typical in card games where you are dragging a card to a specific spot on the field. In this case, the cards that we will see, which we haven't even seen any yet, tend to just be actions, so you just highlight them and then hit A to play them. And I guess the character you're playing as, the inheritor of the estate, is not one of the heroes that's actually going to go into the dungeon. I guess if we look here, this is a lot of user interface potentially to try to use with a controller, so it probably will stick with the mouse. You're currently in a room. No, you're not. You're on the old road outside, but I guess gameplay wise they're considered that a room. Move forward, click on another room on the map display, and that will take you to the connecting hallway. Alright, so hovering over these is not bringing up anything on these two. So is that the map? How was I even supposed to have found that? So you have a little symbols here, and we have two generic characters. We have a Crusader character named Reginald, who we could move in the order of your placement of characters. And then I think we have some extra abilities. Then we have to charge up. He has a battered longsword and the rusted Hubert. He has some food. When we click on this guy, he's a highwayman. He's got some different abilities charging up, and a flintlock rusty blade, and a worn overcoat. His dodge is higher than this guy, so you'd almost want to move this guy back behind this guy, but I will just leave everything as it is. This tells us we're in radiant light, which gives us +2 dodge, +2 scouting, and +4 monsters surprise. You can apparently shift click to reduce the torch and shift control click to snuff it out. I don't know why you would want to do that though. Here's the health. This I think is probably madness, because characters can go mad, which is a gameplay mechanic you don't usually see in a game like this. But it's worth pointing out, just looking at the screen, you now really can tell why the cutscenes and the voice acting and the narrator are important to make a game like this stand out, and why so many clones of Darkest Dungeon that do a different theme visually or try to put a different spin on it don't catch people's attention as also-rans, because they didn't put in the cutscenes, they didn't put in the voice actor, and being second to market anyways, they just didn't have that high chance of getting streamers and getting gamers to all play the game and get excited about the game at the same time.
Brigands have run up these lanes. Keep to the side path. The hamlet is just ahead.
Alright. While in the hallway, press D to move forward or A to move back. If you prefer the mouse, you can click ahead or behind the party to move them. Honestly, at this point, I think we need to think about using the controller, because if it is going to be mouse and keyboard input, I need to at least give the controller a thought. That's going to be easier. Usually controlling setups are dumbed down in enough way that that it's easier to play on a controller in most games with really no danger of that. Alright. So now I've got the controller on the left stick and I'm moving forward, and you can walk backwards. There's this door that opens. Let's see where that led. So up and down on the D-pad. Right trigger zooms in, zooms out, and resets the view. And that's just to change the menu. Left trigger lets you select characters. Right stick to move. Okay. Where next?
Dispatch this thug in brutal fashion, that all may hear of your arrival.
Now, of course, we're still getting the wrong prompts here. Combat is turn-based. On your hero's turn, click on a skill icon and then click on the highlighted target. If you can't select a particular skill, it's because it needs to be standing in a different spot or there's no valid targets. Mouse over the skill to see these requirements. Alright. So we can attack with this, which would do a damage, ACC damage of 95 or 75. So this is probably better. There's another great example of nice animation that you just wouldn't see in a clone of Darkest Dungeon, where they have several frames of an attack that the characters will do to show the characters actually touching each other, whereas so often we see in other games they just do an attack and it just has one character move and then the character doesn't actually make any physical contact with the other character, and then some kind of energy or lightning that's easier to animate attacks that character, attacks the enemy. This is probably pretty simple, so I don't think that there's much of a problem here to just attack and win.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy.
It does seem like our torch is getting dimmer. Loot. Each item, if you take it, will occupy a space in your inventory. Mouse over the items to show it. Press escape to close this window. Well, you could have told me that 2 windows ago. So, we'll take 250 gold. I don't know what the right or D-pad does. And right bump and left bump switches between the characters. But you can't take actions outside of the game. See what the X button does. Oh, it pops up a whole other screen as far as characters. There's a lot of numbers here. And this is part of the problem, certainly. Let's see what the pause button does. Pause button just pauses as usual. Back button does nothing. Up and down on the D-pad does nothing. Right click, left click does nothing. So it does seem like you're going to come back to the problem of some items just not really being highlightable or selectable with the controller. So potentially you can play 90% of the regular action with the controller, but if you wanted to, say, lower the torch down or highlight an object in the inventory, you'd have to figure it out. While exploring, you often find interactive objects. Click or press W to investigate them. Take a look at the tent. Alright, which is just A. And then investigate or use an item or ignore, and I don't know what item you would use, so investigate.
Leave nothing unchecked. There is much to be found in forgotten places.
Let's start by taking what looks like bracers, and then take the other thing. See, Y would equip them. X brings up that. A picks them up. So to actually see what they are, my mouse cursor seems to love to jump to the side here. Yellow like fading hope. Citrine. So I don't think it actually is bracers or something that can be equipped. The more you walk, the more your torch goes darker.
Send these vermin a message.
The darker your torch goes.
Has returned, and their kind is no longer welcome.
Right. And so, like, lowering the light seems to probably increase your chances of going mad. want to see if I can kill that guy. And then I'm gonna buffer this guy, and that's gonna increase the light, but not enough. So it probably was a mistake. That guy's almost dead. And the reason I'm trying to attack the second guy first is so that we can be done with him. But that didn't work. So at that, they have just increased their madness points from 6 to 200. Now going mad doesn't immediately mean you lost. It's worth pointing that out.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
So you can have characters that go crazy, but you would ideally probably not want to get into trying to have characters go crazy until you understand that system. This is a game of systems, a game that can be very redundant and repetitive and grindy if you look at it that way, or it could be a game that you can just play forever if you enjoy it. I may want to turn the gamma up, and first things first, I'll just turn off the lights in my room so I can read the screen a little bit better. I'm looking at the screen on a TV 10 feet away, and the text is readable, but it could be a little bit bigger, always. When most monsters die, they leave corpses. Corpses act as temporary obstacles and will eventually go away on their own. You can attack corpses to destroy them faster, but often a better approach is to use a range skill, push-pull skills, or even corpse clearing special skills that some heroes possess. Monsters killed with bleed, blight, or crits leave no corpses at all. Do monsters include humans? This guy says he needs a bandage. Do we have a bandage? No. So I don't know what punishment is and why that popped up. There's definitely key phrases here that don't make the most amount of sense. Alright. So the goal here is just to try and dodge things. I guess the number at the top is probably the number of turns, not the number of light levels that you've done.
Monster's size has no intrinsic merit, unless inordinate exsanguination be considered a virtue.
Okay, so we now have 4 things we can take. After completing the requirements request, you have the option to return to town at any time. Just click on the crest. Don't need to return to the starting room of the dungeon. You don't need to return to the starting room of the dungeon to exit. Good to know. I feel like in this case it's going to finish for us no matter what. And apparently that shield and that paper thing we collected there are just generic heirlooms that will probably reveal themselves as something else later. So we get +2 resolve XP, which seems like a very small amount of XP. Inherently, I suspect since you only have 4 characters, what you want to do is get 4 of the best possible characters available to you, and you're going to try and max them out to the maximum level before you get to the end of the darkest dungeon. Let's see. We have Abulatomania and Beast Slayer, which I guess maybe are new descriptors of the character, and Abulatomania probably is bad, or Beast Slayer and Warren's Adventure is probably good. And so at a certain level, this is team building through getting people killed.
Welcome home, such as it is. This squalid hamlet, these corrupted lands, they are yours now, and you are bound to them.
So this is another great example of where a mouse is going to play a lot better than a controller, because it is just a completely different outfit and layout compared to what the main game is. So we have a log here. We can see our 2 characters leveled up. Something popped up there that may have been an online thing, which honestly I don't want online content stuff happening. The quest goals: successfully complete your first foray into the ruins, defeat the apprentice necromancer. Yeah, I have no idea what this pops up are. I guess it may just be this guy talking. Defeat the apprentice necromancer, defeat the Soranus prophet, and defeat the necromancer, defeat several other people over and over again. Let's see. Is there anything here that isn't a goal? Succeed in your first assault, second assault, and third assault on the darkest dungeon. Complete the final darkest dungeon quest. Explore the farmstead. Defeat the miller. Defeat the sleeper. Raise a bounty hunter to level 6. So there are several of these characters, just character classes, that you want to get to level 6, which I guess is the max level. And again, this just highlights where DLC was adding entire character classes, making the game overwhelmingly complicated. Alright. Get help where you may. On any screen in the game, press and hold H to see contextual help for the controls in that mode. While try while in the town, exploring, fighting, camping, and more. Which, again, I guess that would mean I'd have to have my keyboard and my controller and my mouse all available to me fairly nearby. Alright. So we have to complete more quests to do the Abbey. And I assume the darkest dungeon is that way. Graveyard is view your fallen hero, so going there and checking
Most
that
will
out.
end up here, covered in the poisoned earth, awaiting merciful oblivion.
And see, I got an achievement just for going into the graveyard, which I wouldn't be surprised if there are just a lot of achievements here that are centered around just clicking on specific places, and you just can't click on the sanitarium or the abbey or the guild or the blacksmith. All we have is the nomad wagon and the Ancestor's memoirs. Let's check that out.
In time, you will know the tragic extent of my failings.
There's no achievement for going into this, but yeah. So the storyline is outlined here in that we've done the prologue, and then the Ancestor's path leads us down a path of defeating a bunch of enemies, and then did some DLC probably for the Color of Madness and Darkest Dungeon, and then Epilogue. That's not asking, frankly, too much.
Women and men, soldiers and outlaws, fools and corpses. All will find their way to us now that the road is clear.
This is a stagecoach where seems like we can recruit some people. We might as
What
well.
better laboratory than the blood-soaked battlefield?
Makes sense to probably make a
Sister of
full
battle,
group.
pious and unrelenting.
Upgrade your stagecoach network while you're here. Spend some of your starting heirlooms to upgrade the stagecoach network. This will increase the number of heroes available in the future. To upgrade, click the plus symbol on the left. Where? Okay.
Great heroes can be found even here, in the mud and rain.
We can't afford those upgrades though. Alright, so we did some upgrades there. And then the rest of this is all locked at the moment, except for this one.
Trinkets and charms, gathered from all the forgotten corners of the earth.
We have a nomad wagon here that would reduce stress by 20%. And then we have an accuracy stone for 5,000 gold, which we barely have 5,000 gold, so probably doesn't make the most sense to do that at the moment.
An increasing stockpile of curious trinkets, gathered from forbidden places.
Reducing trinket cost is a good one to go with. And this is the jeweler. The comet's crash has attracted an opportunist who specializes in otherworldly treasure. You can spend crystal shards earned at the farmstead here. We haven't done the farmstead yet, so we don't have any of these, but yeah, it is another system, another complicated system, to say the least. And it doesn't seem like it has its own separate upgrade, though. Which, that's probably for the better. And that was the Nomad Wagon. This is the Ancestor's Memories. Those two are next to it. There isn't much more you can do in the town right now. It's time to embark on a quest. Click on the embark button at the bottom of the screen. So that's how you get to the Darkest Dungeon and go forward. And so, yeah, we were at the stagecoach. Yeah. And the graveyard is connected to that, and the Nomad Wagon is connected to that. And then, yeah, so all of these are just sub-menus to get through. So there's just kind of two different ways to click on things. And let's see. So busts are kind of these shield triangle looking things with little cracks in them. Tin is used to upgrade town buildings. Portraits, tin are used to upgrade town buildings. Deeds are used to upgrade town buildings. Crests are used to upgrade town buildings. Shards are used for things not quite of this world. And then what would this button do? I guess maybe let you trade some heirlooms. Probably a mistake to go about and do that. Do we have any trinkets left, or did we just sell everything? It's getting dark, but I don't know if daytime and darkness matter. And I guess this may just be our default banner. So if we went into the circus and changed our banner, maybe that would help with that. We're at the darkest estate. Alright. What I would want to do here is line up our characters and equip the characters. But noticeably, they're making that more difficult than it should be. Thin-blooded is 10% blight resistance, but perfectionist is +5 stress when attack misses. I don't know why a 10% blight resistance would be considered a bad thing, though. It seems to me like there's a whole system here that's really complicated as far as preferred positions, preferred targets, a bunch of different abilities, some camping skills, which we haven't even done any camping skills yet. Let's see. Right click on it to get to this, I guess. And I guess this character's equally okay with this position or this position, but really prefers this position. 20% stress when idling in town for a week. So he's antsy. Known cheat is not allowed to gamble while in town. And God-fearing, you'll only pray for stress release. Kleptomaniac, prone to stealing items. And Ablutomania, obsessed with cleanliness. Which, yeah, I don't know how any of that affects anything. A lot of this feels a lot like what a Diablo game would be, except for in the fact that Diablo, you would just be playing as a specific hero class that you select at the beginning of the game, and you can never really change, and then you're attacking by just left clicking and right clicking over and over again. And they've dumbed down the Diablo game, which Diablo is a much older game, down to just having your left hand on the number pads 1, 2, and 3, and left clicking and right clicking. Diablo 1 in particular was like that, but by dumbing it down and not having these overly complicated systems, you are creating a situation where the game moves much faster, and people who would not normally play a slower paced RPG were willing to play Diablo because it was faster and still had some RPG elements, although not particularly a lot. Whereas this is a game that's really going to embrace the RPG elements to the max and the slower pace of everything. Now, it's been 50 minutes, so at this point I could end the episode perfectly fine, and that would be a reasonable length of an episode, but I can pretty well tell that this game is going to be really slow, and so we probably should do 2-3 hour episodes. Excuse me as I'm trying to drink some water there and spilling it all over the place. So let's just embark and make sure we do this right.
Madness and morbidity. Your work begins.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more tutorialization that we still have not seen. Quest in parties. This is where you select your quest and form an adventure party of 4 heroes to embark on it. Click on the quest to see the details. Drag heroes into the slots at the bottom of the screen to form your party in default party order. So, at a certain level, this may not be so much a case of making a perfect set of team of 4 players, as much as it is a team of like 30 people who are better suited. Like right now, all we really can do is just drag these two in the way. Apparently, we now have a team named Red Hook. And I guess it wants us to go to the Warrens. But we could also go to the Darkest Dungeon, the Cove, what does that say? It says Weald, W-E-A-L-D is what I'm reading. I think it might be Field and Farmstead. So all of this almost certainly was added after the fact, and that it was just Darkest Dungeon originally. State map. Test yourself in the mad realm of your fallen ancestor. Take note on how the creatures have taken over, but don't delve too far. This quest does not involve the campaign. It's apprentice level 1. Explore 90% of the rooms as the goal. We get a protection stone, a crest, and 3,000 gold. If we do that, and then this is locked, this is locked. You could potentially just take on Darkest Dungeon now. You could take on the Ruins now. But it certainly wouldn't make sense to even back into the farmstead. I am restless, says one of the characters, and maybe those are the little hints that you need to do. Alright. And that just takes you back this way. We still don't have anything, and I still don't really feel like this would be the point where you would equip things. The next button does say provisions, so I'd assume that's where we start to equip.
The cost of preparedness, measured now in gold, later in blood.
You'll want to take different supplies depending on the region you're going to, how long the quest is, and your own preferences, but always bring some food and torches. For this, your first short quest, try bringing at least 8 food and 4 torches. So, yeah, our torchlight is obviously going to be a thing that you're not just going to be able to cast spells to increase your torchlight. And it looks like we got plenty of money, so why not just go with like 12 bits of food and 8 torches. Let's see how much food you can carry in one pile. 12. Okay, good to know. Let's go ahead and see if we can buy a skeleton key. That sounds good. Bleeding bandages. We'll take 4 of those. Laudanum to cure insanity. Sharp dust would require a secondary currency. We'll use a shovel, one shovel, that's probably all we need. We'll take a medicinal herb. And another key. We just don't have an idea at all what we're going to see, so that's probably for the best. And that's a shared inventory, I guess, between everybody. So yeah, that keeps the game simpler. I guess it's kind of the idea that you're just the psychic leader of the group, or you're the leader of the group that's the main character, telling the other people what to do. And these are your mercenaries working for you. Okay. Select a destination this way. Right.
A fortune waiting to be spent.
Yeah. I do think that even though we tried the controller, it's just too complicated of a game. That way. I may just need to pull out my keyboard and do mouse and keyboard, but right now I'm just going to try mouse. It's way easier. Alright. How do we use that? We just right click it? Yeah. Where you can click is a little bit weird. Certainly. Okay. So if I shoot this one here, it increases the chance of a critical shot, but I missed. Plus 20% damage, plus 20% strength. Let's try this. And plague that guy. When they moved around. And they have different speeds on them. This is straight up a heal spell. This does also heal, but does damage too. Start with this one.
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
Another one falls.
There's one down. And we'll win fairly quickly here, so I guess we could clear all corpses, or we could buff. And we'll see if the buff maybe carries over to another point.
Compassion is a rarity in the fevered pitch of battle. Executed with impunity.
Right, so take that.
Success so clearly in view. Or is it merely a trick of the light?
There we go. It's not like you have a real choice here. It's gonna be a different
Even
thing.
the cold stone seems bent on preventing passage.
Considerable effort, or just use a shovel. So now we know what shovels are for. With obstacles. Alright. First guy has this attack that we want to probably attack that guy with first. And that moved him out of order, and I don't know if that's specifically because of that attack or if that's just a thing. But the little dots on these attacks telling you the preferred positions don't really tell me which is the most preferred attack positions. And so, yeah. Yeah, that worked very well. Let's just straight up attack this one. I'm gonna go ahead and just attack this guy.
Obliterated.
And that one didn't leave a corpse because I critted it. Which maybe it's worse that they didn't leave a corpse, but maybe it's a good thing too. A lot of these uses remaining are scary too, because it does kind of seem like maybe that doesn't refill. It does definitely feel like there is a reason, unless our accuracy is ACC, which would make a lot of sense actually, that would be accuracy.
The wounds of war can be healed, but never hidden.
Yeah, ACC almost certainly is an accuracy amount, and I need to pay more attention to that.
Hope blossoms.
Let's see. Shuffle a single is an effect there. But it would just, this attack would just do that. Plus 20% damage on that. Move back and forth.
Be gone, fiend.
Now, fairly obviously,
Seize this momentum.
if you're
Push on
not
to the task's end.
if you're not interested in this gameplay, there's nothing this game can offer for you.
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted, and purpose is made clear.
Your health is pretty low, also. Like right now, 17 or 25, so he eats that, he's just getting like 2. And as far as hunger, yeah, I don't know. the fact you have to kind of double click on the doors that are in the background is weird. Okay. Battle with treasure. Battle with curio. Curio. Let's go this way. I assume we are still going through the hallways. We're just selecting a destination. Now we have skeleton key and this. Yeah. And at a certain point, if we don't increase the ability written for the old gods, I feel like these characters were probably added in a DLC. If we don't get an ability to move auto refill your light, that's what I'm trying to say. If we don't start to see that being a thing, damage mod negative 25%, or damage mod. Let's try this on this guy.
The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it.
Your hero is bleeding. If you wish, you can use a bandage from the inventory to stop the flow. How did he start bleeding? Let's see. These guys do feel like they're getting stronger and stronger. The thing here is it doesn't seem like your damage is different based on the attack so much. So you're either going to do 6 to 12 damage. They're trying to keep the numbers pretty small and pretty tight here. And then plus 15 versus unholy, so plus 15% of 6 or 12. Or some of these other ones that are just severely reducing your damage.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
Alright. But this is a buff. So I'd probably still do better doing something like that and stunning him. Does this attack cause you to bleed? It may very well. Yeah, let's click this. Attack this guy. Total dodge. Am I now bleeding? Doesn't look like I'm bleeding.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
And, well, again,
Another
do this.
abomination cleansed from our lands.
We have
These
some
nightmarish
jade.
creatures can be felled. They can be beaten.
Key unlocked a hidden compartment, which maybe means I should have always done that. Journal page, a snippet from the doomed expedition. Food. And a disease charm. And so you may always get better rewards if you you use a skeleton key. So this disease charm, for instance, may be way more valuable than the 200 gold. Let's see. And so we know that there's a curio this way. So while it will use a torch, which aren't that big of an expense, we'll now go this way.
A handsome reward for a task well performed.
So we now have 2 journal pages, which I imagine at some point you're going to get all the journal pages of all the story, and then that'll just be a done thing. I assume journal pages don't stack. And nothing here helps you in gameplay. There we go. Debuff that. Move this guy and stun him. Let's see. Let's go and see if that does anything. Unholy damage.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
Yeah, that probably was the wrong one to attack, but whatever. There definitely are some stats here that are being played off as just lines of dialogue, like confidence surging, for instance. That probably means more than it would seem like it does. I imagine this probably would cause bleed damage if it if they had blood in them, but I bet these skeletons actually don't have blood. And it's a little shocking that there's no counterattack here. Plague grenade. It's a little shocking that there isn't a counterattack of any sort.
Back to the pit.
And that attack cleared corpses, otherwise I would have been in real trouble
Press this advantage.
trying to
Give them
attack
no
that guy.
quarter.
Jade, citron, and a bust. What's this? Holy water in the fountain. Interesting, and that gave it specifically to that guy, so if we were to say holy water or click on this, oh, you can only use it once. Alright. We walked into a trap
Cruel
and took
machinations
damage.
spring to life with a singular purpose.
I guess we could probably just click on this guy and give him some food. But that's not going to decrease his stress any. It may also be full as far as inventory items. Halt. So. It probably isn't really worth it to go all the way through this, but this would also be the easiest dungeon we're probably ever going to see to do 100%. So we'll walk backwards and forwards through this. Notably, that room was empty anyways. Alright, we need to go ahead and light up our torch. These guys are getting more and more stressed. And then they're saying more lines of dialogue, but I'm glad those lines of dialogue are not voiced, because that would be annoying to have them say the repetitive things. We didn't activate the trap twice going through a room. Which there's something to be said
In
about
radiance, may we find victory.
Food, interesting. So he'll just have characters eat food. He's full. She's at full health. He's full. So that lets us take the food. We can take the bandages and we can take the busts. Bow. If anything, I would like to see an ability to increase your amount that you can carry. Otherwise, this is going to always be a fairly limited experience as far as how the dungeons get played and how things go. Obviously, I came in a lot more over-prepared than I probably needed to be. That being said, there isn't too many items here that feel like they're just garbage items. Everything kind of plays a role. The hunger is an interesting stat because I don't know where you would see that. It's not under resistance. Diseases might be permanent debuffs. It's not under any of this. You can change the outfits. So yeah, hunger seems to be just kind of a thing that exists and is yet another system. And arguably unnecessary system. We've completed the quest of doing 90% of the dungeon. Continue adventuring. And it does seem like there's probably either a room here for a really difficult battle, even on easy mode, or just an average battle on easy mode. Shovels obviously are going to play a much bigger role than I thought, and torches. Torches need to increase their ability. Certainly. So this may be our first group of 4 attack. Right. Start with this. That was bad. Shuffle some people around. Let's see. At least 20% dodge. I'm just gonna swing away at this guy and miss. See, these may have just a huge amount of dodge ability, so that they might start doing enough damage to really hurt me. So there's this whole shuffling aspect that seems like it plays a pretty big role. Hand of light. Against this guy. Smite. Or stun. And do half the damage. I think stunning probably is smarter. Nope, it wasn't. And I guess these are their attack names that pop up. Alright, that guy's almost completely dead. See if we can plague grenade these guys and add some blight to them. So far it seems like we're doing alright. That's one down. She could probably heal herself and that would probably be good. She's about to die. Yeah, it does definitely feel like 4 turns can happen and you can't eat food or use medical supplies during those processes. Do I want to blight or do I want to stun and shuffle? I think stunning and shuffle is better. I'm gonna try this again. And that again didn't work. I'm gonna heal myself. That doesn't do damage. So do this one. And attack here. I would have thought this would have been a more deadly character, but apparently not. And as you continue to play, you're going to start to get a feeling as far as just which of these characters are actually that deadly and which aren't. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if actually they refill all their health relatively cheaply.
The slow death, unforeseen, unforgiving.
Once you're outside of the dungeon, anyways.
Ghoulish horrors, brought low and driven into the mud.
Alright.
The light, the promise of safety.
We want this. You can combine that. Why can't we combine that? Shift click to discard an item. Let's see. Increase resistance. Value 375. I have 2 of those. Well, bandages are 15 gold each, so it wouldn't be too hard to get rid of that. So apparently 1750 is the maximum you can carry. Interesting. And holy water is only worth 15 each also, so if we choose like this character and buff and say this character and buff, then we can take that. Also, I still don't get the idea why this gold is at that max level. We may just end up tossing a skeleton key.
Glittering gold, trinkets and baubles, paid for in blood.
Alright. Alright. There's no way to drag something to destroy it. You have to shift click to destroy it. I find that strange. And laudanum. I can't use any of that on anybody. Alright, well then we'll get rid of the laudanum and we'll take that. Alright. And we'll just click up there to finish it and we'll get an achievement there. And as far as I can tell, we did everything almost perfectly correct there. There may have been a treasure chest that I could have used a skeleton key with. Obviously you're going to want skeleton keys. Obviously you need torches and food. But then you also want just a lot of extra space. Yeah. Everybody got +2 resolve, but not everybody got an upgraded thing. And this guy's stress is at 79 out of 200, where this one's 26, 0. So I guess that's what's down to that. So now he has minus 10% stress heal received, because he ruminates on things, and 15% stun resistance. World reconstruction plus 25 healing received. And now he's a known cheat. And I guess that probably these abilities are random and not easy to change if they're changeable at all. That would be my guess. And so as you're trying to build the best team you can possibly build, you just hiring new people.
Pitched, banners fly, and the corpse wagons stand at the ready.
Yep.
The circus has come to town.
So this is probably a lot like Rogue Legacy, where, except for in the case of Rogue Legacy, each of the characters that you would play as would have an ability that would slightly affect how you had to play the game, and that was an action platforming game, whereas these abilities are really just slightly changing stats in what is generally the exact same gameplay mechanic over and over again. So much so that there's a certain point where this whole thing could have just been automated, the whole game, and it could just be a kind of idle clicker where you put it into auto mode and you let the team go at it. You maybe make some decisions as where they go in the dungeon. If this was more of a mobile game, and in a funny way, this probably would work a little bit better as a tablet game than a console game, but not really as a cell phone game. There's just too much text on the screen. But if it was more of a mobile game, whether tablet game or cell phone game, you'd almost expect some level of automation, because the actual gameplay mechanic loop here is fairly slow and fairly dull. Alright. Over time, some negative quirks will lock into place and become severe. Severe negative quirks cost much more to remove in the sanitarium. Alright, so we should probably use the sanitarium to get rid of things. Hear ye, the butcher circus. Enter the ring to relieve 10 stress from all heroes. Interesting. So, this being extra DLC, there's already a way in which it is pay to win by relieving stress. We're now at week 2. Abbey is now unlocked. Tavern is now unlocked. So it kind of feels like every run is going to be a week. And so when one of the characters is antsy and wants to be put in the dungeon at least once every 10 weeks, that's a little less doable, but not that much less doable. Alright. So the Butcher Circus is just over here. And we have now the Abbey and the Tavern. Stress relief, stress relief. Right.
The cobwebs have been dusted, the pews set straight. The Abbey calls to the faithful.
Heroes relieve stress by taking in activities at the Tavern and Abbey. Each activity has different side effects. Experiment to find the best activity for each hero depending on their quirks. Committing a hero to an activity locks them to that activity until next week. You have to take a different hero with you on your next quest. Okay. Caretaker is currently enjoying this activity. Pray to a higher power. So I guess the question does come down to what characters do I pick Or can
Fresh
I get
kegs,
new?
cards, and curtained rooms promise solace to the weary and broken alike.
Alright. So first things first. We've got to find... Let's see what our inventory is. All those items we collected, we have a Vengeful Greaves, which is on the battle list only. So that's a Crusader, that's a Highwayman, that's a Plague Doctor, that's a Vestial. Disease resistance, -2 dodge on the Plague Doctor. Might make some sense, but the Plague Doctor is also really stressed. Right. And these icons are just too small for me to see from 10 feet away, so I'm just going to come back here.
In time, you will know the tragic extent of my failings.
Come on, where is the recruit thing? Stagecoach. Here it is. Let's see. Can we upgrade anything here? No, we can't. So, can we recruit these people? We've got two of the same kind of characters. I'm wondering if there's a real value in that. Love interest. Only visits the brothel. Weak grip on life. 10% death blow resistance. Otherwise, I imagine his items and his attack stats are probably exactly the same. At some point we'll probably start with things that have more than 0 resolve XP, and we'll have stronger people. I think the weapons are the same. Let's see. This probably is the better one of the abominations to grab. Like this whole camping skills as an aspect, we haven't done anything with that yet either. Yeah. Other than these quirks, these two characters I think are the same, so we'll take that one.
Tortured and reclusive, this man is more dangerous than he seems.
And then this leper.
This man understands that adversity and existence are one and the same.
Okay. We'll leave that at that. And so then the Plague Doctor, as a character, has angsty, 20% stress when idle in the town for a week. Is not allowed to gamble in the town. So would a doctor be more aligned with the tavern or the abbey? I think he'd be more aligned with this. So self-flagellation is 1500 gold, which means that probably does more. So let's do that, even though that's probably not right. Neither pain nor broken. Whatever. I don't know what this caretaker character is. Whether he's going to be a character we can actually use or not. Right, and then a Vestial almost certainly would be smarter. But she's also my only healer, so I'm going I'm now potentially going with characters that don't have any healing abilities. Alright, this one does have a healing ability, thank goodness. Because that could have been a problem. And 2's about all I can do, so we're just not choosing to do anything with the tavern at all. And effectively, until you start to have the sanitarium, the guild, the blacksmith, other characters taking up other slots, it does seem like your number of people who would just be idle around town is going to increase. Let's see if we can increase this. Increase stress recovery. Increase stress recovery. Increase stress recovery.
A man in a robe, claiming communion with the divine. Madness.
Alright. Send in. That doesn't do anything for us. And then... yeah, we need about 10,000 gold to buy anything here. So unless we are just going to try and reduce the cost of trinkets, which would be helpful. 10% would be major improvement. If we can get to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and they're 5,000 instead of 10,000, that will, throughout the course of the game, prove to be very useful. Alright, let's see. Can we put it on this guy, this guy, this guy, or this guy? No. Alright. Let's see. Nope. 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 So this item doesn't work. Okay. These menus don't work amazingly well either. Just popping up on top of each other. Okay. Torn rotator. Cove adventurer. Plus 5 protection, minus 1 speed. I guess he's best probably applied to this guy because he's the one that seems to be getting attacked the most. And then if there was something that would prevent disease for minus 2 dodge, I don't think you really want to equip that item. Alright, well, it definitely also feels like a mobile game in that you have a lot of different currencies here. You have your main currency of gold, and then you have no less than 5 secondary currencies for upgrading areas. We have pop-up screens and menus all over the place. We have multiple buildings that are kind of doing the exact same thing as just being different variants on relieving stress, although I imagine sanitarium is the only other one that's going to relieve stress, and that guild and blacksmith are going to lead to something else. We have the DLC butcher's corner, and then survivalist is probably just an infinite mode to go through the darkest dungeon. Yeah, there is a lot here, to say the least. I think this is a good point, though, to end this episode. And the game wants us to do the Butcher Circus, but I think we'll do one more run first, and then we'll try the Butcher's Circus. Just to experience what it would have been like without that DLC. So far so good. Your experience definitely is going to heavily rely on how much enjoyment you can get out of the main gameplay loop, and how fast you can go through the main gameplay loop once we're outside of all this tutorial stuff. Honestly, this game may be shorter than I thought it would be if we play it on easy and just play. It is very possible that there are just a lot of people that played this game over and over again because of its early access nature, in which things were just constantly getting tweaked and changed. And that's something I didn't really mention, but now that I recall, yes, this game was definitely in an early access like state, and they were constantly tweaking the amount of damage and the amount of health every character had and balancing things out. So looking at this now in 2022 as kind of a finished product is a very different experience. You can see the build number in the lower right corner there says 2572-1, which 25,000 different build numbers seems like a lot. If it was even version 25, minor version number 72, or minor version 7, and then 2021, it was the year for the last 3 digits, that would still be kind of a lot. Or it could be major version number 2, minor version number 57, and 2021, and even that would still be a lot. Just there's no way in which a build number could be configured in my mind to not indicate that there has just been update after update after update added to this game, tweaking things. And it may be honestly a level of polish and perfection that's not going to really pay off in the long run. Darkest Dungeon is definitely not talked about nowadays in 2022, and I haven't heard of any announcement for a sequel. Arguably half of this DLC, if not all this DLC, could have been in a Darkest Dungeon 2 instead. And we'll think of that idea certainly as we continue through this series. But that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good